10 years. And since I've been retired, there have been horrible cuts made to education. Started with a 500 per pupil cut a few years back. And then as the years went by, I saw, okay, now we're giving state aid to cyber schools, and we're giving them to for-profit charter schools. And they're getting the full amount of state aid. And this seems so unfair to our public education system.
Yep.
I just wondered, do you have any opinions or any?
Oh, I got lots of opinions. You're running for governor, you don't have some opinions. What do you No, I do. So it was funny. I was in Pontiac not long ago speaking, and my grandfather was superintendent of Pontiac schools. My mother taught in Waterford. No, my mother taught in Lansing public schools. My grandmother taught in Waterford public schools. And this woman said, "Well, I thought you said your mother was a lawyer." I went, "Oh, you're really paying attention." She was a teacher, and then she went back to law school and became a lawyer, but not lying on the future. But my 13-year-old daughter told me not long ago that she wants to become a teacher. And it's with enormous pride that I hear that, but I see the look on your face, and that's how I'm feeling too. But teachers aren't treated well enough right now, that they're not supported, that they don't, we don't treat teachers like professionals, and how important they are to the success of our kids. We have embattled our teachers, and we've diverted money out of the traditional public schools for a long time. And let's be very clear. This is an agenda of a family who's now setting policy for the whole country that we've been living under. That to weaken the traditional public schools and to blow the cap off of charter schools. Charter schools were supposed to be able to innovate. They weren't going to be constricted by the traditional requirements of traditional public schools. That, and because of that, they were going to innovate and have much better outcomes. They haven't had any better outcomes in Michigan. In fact, they're worse in some situations, and they open and close, and kids are abandoned, and it has a long-term harmful effect on kids and families. On top of that, they don't have to provide transportation, they don't have to provide high school, they don't have to serve every student. They can pick and choose what their student body is. And charter schools in Michigan. So the national average for charter schools, for for-profit charter schools, is 16%. What do you think the percentage of for-profit in charter schools is in Michigan?
85.
He said double, he said 85, 81%. So you think of the national average and how far out of whack Michigan is and what the outcomes are, and it's not working. And the saddest thing is that no one's asking, well, what does it mean for our kids? What does it mean for the authorizer? What does it mean for no, what does it mean for our children? Because we're failing a generation of kids in Michigan. And we all pay a price when that's the case. When the governor's first term in his first budget, he introduced this massive business tax break. We paid for it by cutting schools, trying to eliminate the earned income tax credit for the working poor, and taxing pensions. That's how the governor paid for that. And I will never forget that a superintendent wrote to the governor and said, "Please declare my school a prison." Because we spent $40,000 a year to incarcerate someone and $7,000 to $9,000 a year to educate a child. So it tells you a lot about how out of whack our priorities have been in Michigan for a long time, and why. And why it's so crucial that in order to reverse that trend and bring Michigan from 50th in this country to, top 10% at least, is going to be a Herculean undertaking, but we have to confront it on all of those metrics, on all of those facets of education, because it's not just tinkering around and putting a little more money in the foundational allowances. That's not going to do it. We got to treat teachers like professionals. We got to hold charters accountable. We've got to set higher standards and support efforts to meet those standards.
public education, community college, Oregon, New York, Tennessee. You know, how could we, that's, to me, I'd like to hear your position on something like that. And more broadly, if we wanted to move in a big direction, and I think that'd be a big direction, how can you convince the American, or the Michigan citizen, this is needed to be done, and we need to raise revenue, something like that?
Yeah, I absolutely think it can be done. I authored something that I called the Michigan 2020 plan when I was in the legislature, and that would have paid for college tuition for every Michigan student. It was modeled after the Kalamazoo Promise. It was paid for by closing all of the special treatment under the tax code that different businesses have gotten baked into the budget that never goes scrutinized every year. And it would have remade who we are, and it would apply to community college as well. We've got to do something bold like that in Michigan, there's no question. Too many Michigan students have been priced out of the education that they need to be successful. When you have a concentration of talent, that is what changes your economy. That is what draws business into a state. That's what creates small business growth and entrepreneurism. We don't have that right now. We also have to get to a point where we're thinking about careers not as a ladder, as though there's one path for everyone, but like rock climbing. So people are supported to make decisions and to follow, you know, where their interests lie, so they can enjoy what they do and be successful at it. We don't have enough people in skilled trades. We don't have enough people with community college degrees, and we certainly don't have enough four-year degree holders. So many of those are cut off from people that they never even can conceive of a skilled trade as a career path that they could be their own boss and make enough money to take care of family and live a great life here in Michigan. And so we've got to open those up and make those paths obvious to people, and we've got to make them so that they can afford to pursue them as well. If we would have passed the Michigan 2020, they'd have been talking about Michigan instead of New York when Cuomo got it through, because we would have been the ones that set the
Two more
table.
states are close, moving there too. Rhode Island.
Yes.
Yes, the federal government declared that they would end homelessness in 10 years, and I think we're only enough to end it. My issue, or what I want to talk about, or what we talk about, is that it's difficult to end homelessness when you don't have industry and jobs to take and support people. You can't support a family yourself on up to $11 an hour at a job, which in this area, the most people get is between $12 and $13 an hour, and they think they're making top wage. We have a real problem here in our city county with homelessness, and it's a real passion of mine, and I just wonder if we have some comments for you.
I think that you're pointing to an issue that needs to be addressed on a lot of different fronts. All right, there's no denying that for many people who are homeless, there's a mental health component that is a part of it. Not for everyone, but there is. And that when John Gaylord closed all the institutions across Michigan, now you've got a legislature that's debating privatizing mental health services, that we've done a huge disservice and people aren't getting the supports that they need in order to be productive and independent.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, well, and you're sitting with all these mental health experts. I know, because I talked to them for about 4 seconds and they raised it. But also, you know, affordable housing is a huge problem in so many communities across the state. I mean, people look at Grand Rapids and say, oh, there's so many great things going on there, but there is no affordable housing, and that's true in rural parts of Michigan as well. And then, you know, I would talk about how important it is to raise the minimum wage. And there are 2 ways that you grow your economy: by having a greater concentration of people with skills, and by elevating the minimum wage. And those are the 2 things that we can do that really improve the quality of people's lives. But even at an increased minimum wage, even when I negotiate the COLA into the minimum wage, it's not enough to raise a family on. I recognize that, and I think that's why it's so important that we give people the skills they need, because there are There's a huge need in all these different walks of life, but we're not making those paths clear and available and affordable to people.
How do we work on bringing industry to Michigan? We were at the top for industry, I just know that we're not there.
When we were the top, we had the great concentration of talent, people with the skills they needed. We had good schools so that employers would want to come here and they could draw talent into Michigan. Because if you're a talented person, you've got options, and you have a family or thinking about having a family, you ask that question, what are the schools like? And when you look at the metrics of where we stack up to the rest of the country, we're not competitive right now. Our kids aren't getting the skills that they need. And so those are two pieces of this. I mean, it's all related. We can't talk about our economy and think education is just an expense on this side of the ledger. They're absolutely intertwined. And until we recognize that, and until we get people in industry, people with business background and platforms and thinking about where they want to locate, or to be a part of that discussion, I don't know how we change the priorities that are coming out of Lansing. And so I think that's going to be a critical component of it. But also our infrastructure plays a role in bringing business into Michigan. You know, I was talking to a realtor in St. Ignace, and she was very close to selling a big piece of property overlooking the lake. Gorgeous, pristine, and it was an entrepreneur who was going to have a number of really high-paying jobs that would come along with it. Ultimately, he decided not to buy the property because there's no broadband. You know, so you think of an infrastructure. Yeah, well, I know it's not unique to St. Ignace. I do know that. But you think about the infrastructure problems in Michigan, whether it's water, or it's our roads, or it's broadband. You know, we have neglected to do the fundamentals here for so long. We've got a massive task ahead of us. But those are all critical pieces in terms of fixing the problems that you're raising, I think. What on homeless did I not hit that I should have, or that I should be thinking about? Homelessness.
I'm sorry,
What on homelessness did I not address that you think I should be thinking about?
I think everything you addressed is absolutely correct.
Addiction. Yeah. So the addiction component. That's a great point. That, you know, and often it's with the opioid crisis and the level of addiction across Michigan, we are sadly we are behind the curve on that too. Michigan actually is the epicenter of the problem in the Midwest. Our governor has not, until relatively recently, staked out any policy that would, on the front end, work to curtail how many people get addicted to prescription drugs in Michigan. Just by requiring that doctors use a state database would have gone a long way toward addressing this, to ensuring that there aren't all these prescriptions in the hands of people. That the irony here is that the National Governors Association, which is a bipartisan group of governors from across the country, have promulgated kind of a best practices list of legislation that has really worked, and it's backed up by science and outcomes. And the leaders in our country are Mike Pence's Indiana and Chris Christie's New Jersey. I know. So I'm not being partisan when I say this administration's really failed. I mean, they have failed by everyone's standards. But when you think that there are some common sense things that we could do on the front end on that particular part of the addiction issue, it tells you kind of how we're not really focusing on the problems that individuals are facing across the state, and that's an important part of the Gretchen's question.
Got one time for one more quick question.
Okay. Look at he's so hesitant to interrupt. He's my young, long-haired millennial. Yes.
Okay, getting back to education. My first stint as a teacher was back in the late 60s, early 70s. Got back in 2000. And my first stint, teachers were respected and it was a good profession to get into. When I got into it back into up here up north in 2000, it was still a good profession, but boy, things changed. what can you do to bring it back around again? To make that a respected profession?
Well,
Because, I mean, kids are losing. And I've seen it, you know, and so many teachers, when they retire, if you're in a specialized area, they don't replace you. And these kids, they put them somewhere else. And they say, everything's good, it's not good. And these kids lose.
well, step one is electing a governor who's not beholden to the DeVos family. I should drop the mic. But seriously, we have got a crisis looming on the education front. We've got people, no matter how good your heart is, no matter how strong a calling it is to serve and to educate kids, which is why people go into teaching in the first place. No one goes into it because it's lucrative, but because it was a profession, it was a calling. To get more people to even consider that, we've got to make it affordable. We've got to give them support. We've got to treat teachers like the professionals that they are. We've got to ensure that they've got the support in the classroom, that we have social workers in our schools again, that we have counselors in our schools, that we've got nurses, so that it's not all on the teacher who's got a tough enough job with 25 or 30 students in their class as it is, and in some districts more than that. That we've got to be committed to smaller class size and giving the continuing education that teachers need. And you know, we need to have an investment program where we are encouraging people to get that degree. Because if you're going to go into debt to get a job that doesn't pay you, where you're treated terribly, you're out of your mind. You know, so we've got to confront every piece of this problem in order to get talented people to go back into teaching and to treat them like the professionals that they are. Thanks for being a
Get
teacher.
my 3% back.
I'm all for that too. All right. Well, listen, I know they're telling me that it's time to wrap up. This is a phenomenal crowd. I enjoy being here a great deal. I am actually jumping back in the car today, right back down to Lansing. Not a great plan, but I was going to stay up north and get around, but it all changed. But anyway, the point is, I wanted to be here because getting around this state and engaging with people is really important to me. It's what informs me, not just as a candidate, but is going to keep me focused on what is so important and what we need to accomplish in this state. Running for governor is not for wussies. All right, I have spent a ton of time traversing this state, engaging with people. We have over 10,000 volunteers statewide, but that's just a good start. This is a huge state. We have got a lot of work ahead of us, and we've got to build this. I can't assume the Democratic Party can do what they've done in elections past. We're building this, and if you want to be a part of this, I would love to work with you on this. If you want to host a get-together or a fundraiser, I would be grateful. If you are interested in helping collect signatures on the petitions or helping me build a network in this area, I would be grateful for your help. There's a role for everyone. If you're interested in getting involved, your participation would be so helpful, and I would be appreciative, and I would never forget it. So I appreciate you making the time to be here tonight. Thank you for some of your kind words. Thank you, Whitney. You're a great shot. Everyone have a great night. Thank you.